So it's the 26th of May 2021. I am admitted at a psychiatric hospital. This is the same day where I meet up with my psychiatrist and I'm told that I have major depressive disorder. As I go back to the ward, my mind is in conflict. I know that you love me, God. I know that you have greater plans for me. I know that you don't just do things for the sake of doing them. I know that you have not forsaken me, but right now it feels like it. It feels like you have forgotten about me. It feels like you do not love me. In actual fact, I cannot feel your presence. And that was the most painful thing or moment in my life. And I just couldn't understand why would God, after having lost everything and after having gone through so much within a space of 2 years or a year, why would you allow me to actually be here, allow such thing? I mean, like, how much more strength do you think that I have? And I was in so much pain. It really hurt. You know, when you feel like I can't feel your presence, God. And even the weird thing though is that before I went to hospital, and I was told by my doctor what I needed to be admitted ASAP, I called my friend and I told her that, listen, I have an appointment with God at a psychiatric hospital. I really didn't pay attention to my words, but even though in my heart I was like, I felt like, when God wants to speak to you and he has something very important that he needs to speak to you, or when he wants to prepare you for the work that lies ahead, or he needs to prepare you for the prayers that you have been praying, he tends to separate you or to isolate you. So for me, that's how I had interpreted all of this. And I must say that the separation, the isolation was really painful. So I get there. So awarding we were four. Excuse me. So Miss by four awarding. One of the patients was same age, and then there was two older ladies. So when I got there, I see a file, pays great bit, like I see a file, and I'm thinking, okay, maybe they're just going to document a progress yam, and I really didn't pay attention to it. And at that time, I'm really tired. I want to sleep, but I'm just not understanding what you got. Why would you? And also at that time, I have little knowledge when it came to mental illness, and for me, being admitted at a psychiatric hospital meant that only guess. So I was like, I'm not mad, God. And I was so scared and I really didn't know what to expect. But in my head, I kind of like had an idea of what was going to happen, because I was like, I'm going to see people banging their heads and I'm going to see people with straight jackets and stuff. But I don't belong here, so I don't understand why would you allow me to be here. And I was like, already I'm down. I've lost everything. And after I'd lost my grandmother, go 2020, a part of me died. Maybe I'll explain to you in other videos, because with my grandmother, everything that I did, every decision that I made was influenced by her. So when she died, I also died. So I was like, how much more strength, God, do you think that I have? So the next day, we didn't really do orientation or whatever. We were not told what's going to happen. Well, my therapist, before I actually went to the hospital, told me, you know what, I think it's good that you actually go to the hospital, because you don't get to do anything, you get to be lazy and stuff, and it's perfectly okay. And also, since I was not functioning because I couldn't work, Kuba, I was struggling, I had memory loss. I couldn't remember the things that I needed to do. So she was like, you need this break. It's long overdue. So just go there and rest. I can't do Zoyens. And that is why I carried my camera, because I was like, okay, I will have a time with God and he's going to speak to me and I'm going to take pictures, because and then the next day we wake up and I'm really not sure about how are things going to go. Are we just going to sit here for 21 days, go outside? And we are Sukwindawo, where it's kind of like this electric fence. We are not allowed to actually go outside the facility and all of that, which is quite depressing on its own. So the next day, get up, take a shower, and I'm quite a bit confused. Well, okay, what's going to happen? Is someone going to come and fetch us and tell us ba itini into. And then the next thing in the morning comes one of the nurses, head nurses, and she's just shouting that we're late for class and yonke lonto. And I'm thinking in my head, class, hospital, that doesn't make sense. So she kept going on, and then when we were leaving, she tells us to carry our files. And so I get there, and I'm like, "Abo, sis going up." It is not actually your normal hospital. That hospital, you are learning. So classes started from 9 till 6 o'clock every day for 21 days. It is class. I was like, "Kanditi into." And for me, I didn't really understand the program because I felt like the reason why I'm here is because I was not functioning at work. I was struggling to work. I couldn't produce reports. I couldn't do anything. Now you are bringing me here to a hospital where you told me that I'm here to rest. And then you are telling me I'm here to learn. I have to carry a file. I have to write notes. I have to do everything. That shame, I was just not ready for it. But literally ambixesha, and I got to understand. At the literally ambixesha, then I realized, but you know what, actually this is necessary because we had different classes. We had classes with occupational therapists. We had two beautiful young occupational therapists. So basically their class was all about giving us tools on how to cope and manage our mental illnesses. And facility care, it's not just for people suffering from depression. There's just people who have like anger management issues are here. We talk of people who have substance abuse, who suffer from substance abuse, drugs and alcohol. They're here. We're talking of people who have bipolar and other mental illnesses, also eating disorders. So silapa glenda we want. So it's just a mix. It's not just people who have depression or anxiety. So it's just different, a bit of everything in the facility. So with iklasi, with the occupational therapist, what we are learning is tools. We're just given tools on managing and coping with our mental illnesses. So it's not just there was just a specific class for nina depression, then you're going to learn that thing. No, it's like it was just one class. Maybe this day we're going to learn about time management, we're going to learn about setting boundaries, we're going to learn about what else. There was also a class session where there was a spiritual therapist there, and yeah, different. There's also this other 12-step concept. Okay, I forgot about it. But also we also had classes where with the different therapists, and one of the classes was cognitive behavioral therapy, where we were taught on self therapy. And then we had classes with our psychiatrist where he basically taught us about the different mental illnesses and how like bazintoni, the symptoms and treatment and all of that. I think that was when kula class, when we learned about major depressive disorder and stuff. And then immediately when he said that there was no cure, I cried. I cried. I was like, I'm gonna live with this thing for the rest of my life. But with our psychiatrist, it was to better understand your mental illness. So for me, which was great because I really like Benchilo. When I got there, I didn't understand what depression was. I thought that I was mad, even though I felt like I wasn't mad. So I was taught about, I had a better understanding of what major depressive disorder is and other mental illnesses and also symptoms. And I was like, oh, okay, now I understand why I've got memory loss. It's one of the symptoms. I understand why I have this. So, and also how you can treat it. So that was a class with our psychiatrist. And also we had classes. We also had group therapy. Group therapy was great. Being in a safe space. It was a safe space. Being in an environment where you don't have to explain to people what you're going through because they kind of like have a better understanding because they're going through a similar situation as you. That was great. Not explaining, because I honestly did not have the energy of explaining to people what I was going through. And even when you explain to people, they like, because with some people they didn't, for them it was a matter of back home ukoti, we've all lost mothers, you know. You kind of like snap out of it, you know, life goes on, yonke lonto. So now I'm in a space where people understand where I'm coming from and what I'm going through. They sympathize with me. I don't feel judged. I don't feel like I'm a burden. We are in this together and I do not feel alone. And I think I did mention this in the previous videos. You know, with mental illness, with depression, it can get lonely because you're surrounded by people or society. You're in a society that does not have an understanding, a full understanding of what mental illness is. And now you're walking this journey alone, and it is something that you can't, other people cannot see it. You know, there are people who suffer from high functioning depression where you are going about your life and no one sees that you're depressed. And when you tell them that you are depressed, they kind of like don't believe you. Because I remember at some point I had gained weight, a lot of weight, and my skin was just popping for some odd reason. And people don't believe me when I told them that I was suffering from depression, because people had this idea, ukuthi depression, you are mad, so fanelba, you are talking alone, paper or whatever. But in actual fact, mental illness or depression does not have a face. I can be happy, I can laugh, I can go out, I can be adventurous, but still suffer from depression. I can lock myself in the room, I can sleep all day, close the curtains, don't bath, don't do anything. Depression. So it does not have a face. So I loved group therapy, you know, people sharing in like izabo and you getting to share. But one thing I actually didn't really like about it was the fact that, let's say I'm sharing and in diakala and I'm all emotional and stuff, you're not actually allowed to comfort the next person, to touch. There was no physical contact, was not allowed. I didn't understand it then, because you know when you're in so much pain and you're vulnerable, like you wish someone could come and hug you. But then in this case, we were told that, you know, you never know. My reasons for being here could be that I was sexually abused. So you touching me could maybe you could be triggering me. So which I understood, which made sense. Same time, even though you're like, I could do with an embrace, you know. So there was no physical contact. Would allow you to just cry. We respect you enough to wait for you to cry, and we sympathize with you. We feel your pain, and all of that. And also one of the rules was that I cannot give you advice. I am not trained to give you advice. The best thing I could say is if I was in your shoes. Yeah, that's the other thing I learned there. And also, you know, that whole thing, you know how when you're crying and someone tries to comfort you and stuff, then you're allowed to cry it all out, let it all out and stuff. But for me, with group therapy, I hardly cried. I think even when I was sharing, I didn't cry. Like then as bam. So that was that. And then any class that we had was mindful meditation. That class, I slept throughout the whole session, because I mean, like, you play calm music and I am tired. I am, because I'm not sleeping at night, and there's classes, something I was just not prepared for. So now you're playing this music, this calm music, and even our facilitator had this voice which was so calming. You know, she would be like, okay, close your eyes and imagine that you're walking in a park, you know. So now I'm like, this is nap time for me. So through all the sessions, mindful meditation sessions, I would sleep. And I remember one of the inmates, so as patients, we called ourselves inmates because we felt like we were in prison because we were not allowed to go out. So I was like, one of the inmates was like, yo, Aisana, we inati every time it's meditation, she's sleeping. And he would actually wake me up when class was over because I was sleeping throughout the whole session. Yeah, that was me. I was really tired. I was too fatigued. Like, it was so bad. So those were the different classes that we had and stuff, even though it was like getting up in the morning and it's kind of like cold. It was snowy. Now imagine waking up every morning to go to class. We were funda from 9 to 6. And then we also had art therapy, which was cool. I think that was the last session for the day. Art therapy, it's either you go to the art room where you actually paint or you do any craft work, or Kanye, you go to the gym and just lose some kilos. Well, that was not the aim to lose kilos, but it was just for the happy hormones. Yes. So that's what that those are the classes that we had. I'm trying to think if we had any other classes. Oh, and also we had one-on-one sessions with our therapist. So we were allocated different therapists, and for me during therapy sessions, I was really not ready to open up. I was really tired. Like I was tired, and I didn't want to talk. I was not ready to deal with my issues. I just needed to rest, you know, and it was kind of hard for me to open up. And also I was kind of frustrated because with e-therapy, I felt like they were just focusing on the losses, the whole grieving and so was indoor. And I'm like, listen, me losing my grandmother, my uncle, my cousin, my aunt, my mom, this is just a drop in the ocean. There's a lot that I need to deal with. There's a lot that has happened in my life over the past 30 years. And I feel like clear 21 days, it's not enough. We won't be able to tackle everything. And number two is because I'm just not ready to deal with them. And I think at one point I was asked to go to why, and I was like, listen, I have so much that I have carried over the years. And for me, I've always been a person that snaps out of things. If something happens, even when someone hurts me, I snap out of it. I just choose to be the bigger person. I choose peace, even though la peace because I suffer at the end. So I've always that person who would snap out of things. I'd be like, let me just put it here. I'll attend to it some other time, and I never do. Because I was afraid to come head to head with my emotions and stuff. So I struggled a lot, and I struggled with being vulnerable. I didn't like that. I've always known myself or portrayed myself as the strong one, ukapati soldier. So I was just not willing to be vulnerable, and be at a place where I need help. So there's a lot that I had bottled over the past 30 years. And I was like, I hear that you want me to deal with my issues, to actually open up and deal with them. But if I would do that, I would really need a strong person to be there, because I'm going to crash. There's a lot. And because I felt like there was no one stronger than me who could handle everything I would share, I chose to snap out of it again. So therapy sessions, the one-on-one sessions for me were they were not so much progressive and stuff, because I was just not giving much to my therapist. I was just sharing. And I felt like their method on how she was doing things for me, I was rushing to heal. I wanted to heal now. I wanted to get over this and go back to my normal life. And if this whole thing of going through one step, okay, now you have to write a letter to your grandmother, say whatever. I was like, child, I ain't got no time. That's how I felt. I felt like life was moving and it was not waiting for me, and it was depressing. So that was that. And also so the first 10 days we were not allowed to use our phone, so they just took everything. And then good day 11 you're given your phone, but only during lunchtime. So hour lunchtime you can use your phone, but during lunch you cannot, at dining hall you cannot use your phone. So you kind of like have a few minutes to actually go through your phone. So I took my phone and I opened it, and I got a message from my friend Uneli, and she was telling me, Ukoti, listen, I miss you. I can't wait you to come back so that you can tell me everything that's going on here. I hope that you are healing. I hope that you are opening up to to your therapist, because I knows you. When you do not like opening, and I hope that you are not a savior there. And I hope that you are not being a therapist because in your patients, because she knows me too well. I hope that you're not a therapist kwezinye and stuff. And then she was like, and I hope that Aulanduzanga, you are not Joseph there and you are given iskundla, like a position to represent the patients. I kind of laughed because everything that she said, she hoped that would not happen, was what actually happened or was happening. Because so what happened is we would have a chairperson and a vice chairperson who would be the middleman between management and also the patients. So the patients, every complaints, compliments, and whatever they had, they take it up to a chairperson or vice chairperson, and then the chairperson go to the management, and with the middleman. So when I got there, I was quiet. I was just minding my business. I'm not that person who's talks with everyone. I just talk with people who talk to me. So I'm just chilling and minding my own business this day, and then we have a meeting, a patients meeting, and then they were like, okay, we need to vote for a new chairperson and a vice chairperson, because the ones that are actually there currently, they're being discharged soon. So this time they're like, you know what, we're not going to do the way how we do things previously, where we would actually, you'd like put your hand up, pick a name, and then we vote on it, all of that. So this time we have two names we'd like to recommend, and if you have any objections or whatever, then you have more than welcome to actually object. And then they were like, okay, chairperson, we nominate this other guy. And we're like, okay, sure, we don't have any objections. And I'm sitting by the fireplace because it's cold, and I'm just minding my business, and I think I was having tea that day. And then they were like, vice chairperson Inat. And I'm thinking, what? Me? And they were like, please, yes, please be the vice chairperson. And I was really not, I was like, nah. Because in my head, I'm like, I'm tired. Like, what do you mean? And it didn't make sense. How do you all know me? I'm the quiet one here. I don't talk to people. So they begged me, and I was like, I'll think about it and stuff. And then eventually I said yes. So I represented the people. But I remember one day going to my room, Dikala, and I'm like, oh God, it's not enough that undizise magazine. It's not enough that you allow me to be admitted to psychiatric. You make me chairperson, vice chairperson. So that means you are saying that I'm the master guesser. Like, I'm there when it comes to craziness. So that's how I felt, which is funny. And I remember telling him, what do you know? You've got a funny way of doing things, like that was funny though. But yeah, I was the vice chairperson. My job description basically was to welcome the new inmates and just to do an orientation for them. And Zamayan's orientation, so I was given that task. After they do the whole admin, and then I've been called by Inati, please report to the duty room, and then I know there's a new inmate, and I have to welcome that person and show the person around and stuff about, okay, this is classes, this is how it works, so that was my job there at the facility. And other than that, the classes and stuff, when it came to my health and my progress, I was not progressing. I was just getting worse. There was a point where the hallucinations came back and the nightmares, and they were intensifying. I was so scared, like it was so bad. And every time my psychiatrist would up my dose because I was not sleeping because of fear. And I remember I never spoke with my therapist about it. I was just joking around. I was joking around about my illness, about my situation, and they were really concerned, So I was chatting with one of the occupational therapists. I'm like, you are Hassan, my level of craziness is here now, because I'm seeing things that other people are not seeing, and I'm having nightmares. And they were so concerned because they were like, you are not taking your like mental illness is a serious thing and you're not taking it seriously. And so they reported me, because every pioneer, especially, what happens is that every morning before classes, there all management would have a meeting where they discuss each and every patient's progress. So that's when my therapist actually found out, and then she called me for a one-on-one session. And when I was there with her, that's when one of my childhood traumas actually resurfaced, and it was painful because I was just not ready to deal with it. But yeah, that's what happened. And that's when I realized, okay, the nightmares were actually, and the hallucinations were actually my trauma, something that happened years back resurfacing. So that was painful, because for the longest time I was in denial. I didn't want to accept it, and I kept on dismissing it. And even when it resurfaced there at the hospital, I was still not ready to deal with it. So I just chose to stay with denial stage. Yeah, that is me. And also with meditation, mindfulness meditation, the only time it worked was when I was called for a one-on-one session, because yeah, they were really stressed about your progress, and because I was not really making any progress. And I quite understand, and I know why, because now I was that typical inert who was more focused on other people's problems. I was the therapist, with my other inmates. Yes, we were not allowed to like burden each other, but now I'd be there listening to people's problems and telling them, yeah, you know what, praying for you, just be strong, all of that. And I'm not even ready to deal with my problems. So that was the case. And yeah, man, it was bad. And every time I went for reviews with my psychiatrist, he would be worried, Uguti, you're not getting any better. And that is why I was given a referral letter, because glad 21 days I didn't make any progress. I was just going down. So they gave me a referral letter to actually meet up with a psychiatrist, M Tata, and I was not really looking forward to it, because I was like, so you're trying to tell me I'm going to go through this whole process again? Like, incorrect. Incorrect. So yeah, especially it was like that. We What made it pleasant and bearable, my stay at the hospital, was the inmates, the patients, guys. At some point they made me forget that in Sesbedlel. I think it's because it was a safe space, where you're allowed to be vulnerable. And it is so easy to be vulnerable, because one of the things that we were taught was mindful listening. When you share your story, the person is present. And also the fact that being a co-phone, which is so great. Nowadays, as theater, it's kind of hard to have those intense sessions with the other person, because our phones are always here. We are ready to know every time it buzzes, get message or we are already looking at our phones. But there are no gadgets, nothing. So it's easy to just listen, and be present, and you can feel that this person is actually listening to me. You don't feel judged and stuff. And there was a point where we would actually laugh, and be like, what, I know I'm crazy, but I'm more crazier than you, and all of that. It was nice. It was nice. And I remember one of the nurses came to our ward, and she was telling us, this is the happiest ward ever. And yeah, it was okay. There were no people banging their heads, Emma Donkeni. There were no people on straight jackets. There were no crazy people. It was just people suffering from a mental illness, like any other illness. Like I remember a psychiatrist saying that depression is like common cold. It's a school. Like when you are sick now, nento diagnose into GP yako. So it was good being in that space where you don't feel judged, and being in a space where people have a bit of an understanding of what you're going through, because I cannot say they fully understand what you're going through, because I always say, Okoti, you can never fully understand depression unless you experience it. But even still, you can never have a full understanding, because every single day it presents itself in a different form. So that's my take. That's how I've experienced my my journey with Ilandus. That's my experience with my journey overcoming depression. And yeah, I'm gonna continue to share overcoming depression. But otherwise, that was my stay as Bedlele. It was, yeah, it was. It's basically, it's a facility as much as it's a hospital, but there's like everyone. It's I love how it is don't structured. The fact that you have a GP, you have a I love the fact how it's structured, because there's a general practitioner, you have a psychiatrist, you have a spiritual therapist, you have a psychologist, clinical psychologist, you have an occupational therapist, you have a dietitian, you have a mindful meditation facilitator. So it's a holistic approach to your healing, which is something I was like, you know what, which is great. And there was one time I did break down, and for the first time where I actually cried in front of people was when I, you know, throughout I had like a headset which had music, yeah, more. So I would listen to worship music every day without a fail. And even though in that process, during that time, I did not lose my praise, I was fighting. In my head, there was just war, because I was like, I know, you know that thing when I said earlier on, God, I know, God, that you love me. I know that you don't just do things. I know you've got greater plans for me, but it just doesn't feel like it. You are not here and over. It feels like you have forsaken me. So every day I would listen to worship music. And this one time I was listening to Maverick City Music, Ujira. And then there's this one line that just killed me, where it said, Uguti Jira, you are enough. I will be content in every circumstance. I was like, no, I've been an understanding child of you, God, for the longest time. I can't. It's kind of hard to say that I'll be content in every circumstance, because right now, contentment is so not easy. So I cried listening to that song, and I put it on repeat, and I was crying, and Irumetsizam came. And now it was so funny, because they can't touch me to comfort me. They're scared, and it's the first time they know me as the strong one, and now I'm crying. I'm just this mess. And now they're just looking at me, Ukoti, Inati, like, I'm sorry. And I was going on, and they were asking, what's wrong, Inati, what happened? And Mnandi Bees, but I don't understand how, how did I get here? It just doesn't make sense. How could I not see this and stuff? And I was going on and on. And then later on, that day, I'm okay, I'm back to normal, I'm that asa, you know, that inati. And now they busy laughing at me as like, you are asa now inatu kalang islungu. When she cries in English. So it was fun, I won't lie. And when I had to go back home, I was just not looking forward to go back home. I wish I had stayed longer, because I was like, okay, this 21 days, I was like, you know, I was resting. So now I need more time to actually sit and deal with my issues. And going back home, I was just not ready to go back home. But yeah, I met people. I know at the hospital we're not allowed to make friends, to avoid codependency. But yeah, I will say that, you know, we've created friendships, even though okay, other people you're like, you'll never see them again, you don't know what they're doing, they don't know where I am in life. But it was beautiful to be around people that share the same pain, and not only that are there, they're supporting you, they're not judging you, they're walking this journey with you. You know, one of my friends once asked me, Ogoti, like, what is it that you would love as someone that's actually going through a mental illness, suffering from a mental illness? And I was like, you know what, more than anything, instead of you telling me what to do, okay, why don't you go to the gym, Zoluza, also it's going to Ntondo, happy hormones and all of that. Why not go to the gym instead of you telling me what to do? Because I do know it's just that the only strength that I have in me is to survive. So what we would really love is someone to walk this journey with us. So yeah, as I had mentioned in the previous video, I'm currently on antidepressants. It's almost a year. June will be I'll be celebrating 1 year. Yo, in June, yeah, will be exactly a year on antidepressants. And how am I doing? I'm great. I am at peace. God has been good. Yeah. I thank God. I thank God that I'm here today. I'm sure you can see me. Ukubandi righty and stuff. Yes, I'm still on antidepressants, but I'm in a very good space, better space in my life. And yeah, it's goodbye to me. And I hope you, I don't want to say you enjoyed, do I say you enjoyed this video? Are you supposed to enjoy this video? Hope you learned something. I don't know. But please do comment, do share, do like, and also subscribe. And I hope to see you next time. It's goodbye and God bless you.